You got the thumbs up.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 1st City of River Falls Planning Commission meeting. First thing we'll do is stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a roll call, please.
Holtkamp,
Here.
Gormanson,
Here.
Moody,
Here.
Bodine,
Here.
Prendergast, Woolsey.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have approval of minutes from the September 3rd meeting.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, first and a second on the minutes. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to public comments. Anybody in the audience has anything like to stand up and talk about? Now would be the time. Please, if you do come up, sign in, name, address, phone number, and everybody be 2 minutes for public comments. Oh, that's true. So if you're here for the, either one, I guess if you're here for either one of the things are public hearings, so if you want to wait till that comes up on the agenda, you can. If you want to talk now, you can. Either one. So, okay. So both things on the agenda tonight are public hearings. So if you want to wait till it comes up on the agenda to talk, that's fine. Or if you want to come up now, you can come up now and talk. Either way. So the first one will be the special use permit. Oh, I'm sorry, for the support the housing facility. So if you want to talk now, you can. If you're
Reds.
yes, Reds. Yep, special housing permit. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So nobody for public comments. So we'll go on to we'll have the first public hearing. We'll close the planning commission. Open up the public hearing on a special use permit for supportive housing facility, Reds Place on Highway 29. It'd be the northeast corner of PID 27601141064. This is the Danielson development, and Harley has a little presentation for us. And then the public can come up and ask questions or make comments.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission. I am Harley Nelhorn, Senior Planner. The first item before you tonight is Reds Place, a request for special use permit approval. By way of some background regarding this site, Reds Place came before this commission in May of this year for a plat and a special use permit. This request is for an update to that special use permit to accommodate an increase in building height, the addition of units, and the broadening of the supportive housing services offered. As a reminder, the site was recently annexed into the city from the town of River Falls and is located approximately 1/2 mile south of Cemetery Road on the east side of State Highway 29. As a refresher, the proposed site is in the northeast corner of the subdivision and is roughly 4.5 acres in size. The property is owned R2 multifamily, therefore necessitating a special use permit for supportive housing facilities. The May approval consisted of 54 one-bedroom units. With a third-story addition, which will be touched on in a moment, 21 additional units are being proposed, with 63 one-bedroom units and 12 two-bedroom units, allowing not just for adults with autism, but also their family members and potentially the aged population as well. In addition to the housing element, a full suite of services and amenities are to be provided for the residents. Staff has reviewed the proposed operations and found them compatible with surrounding land uses and the intent of the R2 district. The proposed site plan is practically identical to that of the previous approval, consisting of 2 L-shaped buildings connected via first-story breezeways surrounding an open-air courtyard, with parking to the west of the building. The only major difference is the increase in building height of the northern wing of the building to 3 stories, or roughly 36 feet, up from 2 stories. This is the previously adopted elevation, and here is the current proposed elevation. The massing forms and material are consistent or better in quality as compared to the previous approval. Beyond minor material and color changes, the main difference, as aforenoted, is the heightening of the northmost wing of the building, which is represented in this rendering. River Falls Municipal Code requires the commission evaluate a special use permit application based on the following conditions. City staff have examined each of the conditions and found there to be no concerns. Staff analysis of the specific conditions can be found in the meeting packet. Therefore, staff recommends the commission approve the resolution for the special use permit for the supportive housing facility with the recommended conditions. With that, I turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there anybody in the audience has any comments they'd like to say about this? Now would be the time to come on up. Come on up. And sign in, name, address, telephone number.
Hi, my name is Adam Johnson. I live pretty much kitty corner right next to this development. My question is has this already been passed? Is there anything that the community can say to allow this third story not to go up? I don't really care to have people staring into my backyard. That's my concern right now. I know that the second story and this whole development has already been approved, but I'd really appreciate not to have anybody staring into my backyard. So if this is going to be passed, then there needs to be some sort of privacy built into their development, whether it be already mature trees put in place, some sort of privacy fence that would block everybody's view of the neighboring residents that butt up to this. I think that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you.
I am Don Nelson. We live at 1860 Wisconsin Street. The development is to the south of our house. The road running from the highway to the garage is parallel to our backyard. And Larson Park is to the east of our yard. So we're going to be probably quite affected by this. I'd like to know if that road that goes back into the garage now, is that going to be changed so it's an access to this development?
Harley, go ahead, you can answer.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe what you're referring to, sir, is the access drive to Larson Park. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that is exclusively an emergency secondary access. It's not for typical access. It's only if the standard access is blocked and emergency services need to be in.
Okay. Has there been any consideration as to what this is going to do to our property values? It's going to be zoned for commercial, and we're residential. Who knows what's going to go on in that huge area that's going to be developed?
Yep. So this is just comments now.
Pardon me?
This is just for comments now. If you want to make your comments about what you think and don't think about this, and then.
Oh, you don't want questions,
we can,
you just
yeah,
want comments.
Yep. And then these are questions that we can ask Harley when it comes back to the planning commission.
Okay. Well, I'd also like to know something about the residents that are going to be moving in there. What are their ages? And this is for families. Are there going to be children there? Are there going to be just people that are homeless? I'd like to know what's going to go on in there. And if that is the case, what does that mean for the security of our houses?
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Dick Reinhardt, 346 Steelhead Drive, South Point. We just went through, or we're going through, a situation out there by us with the digester on the Peterson farm, and now this new development is being built. My only comment to the Planning Commission and to the city of River Falls, if they'd seriously take it under consideration, is that we are, as a group out there, having tremendous difficulty with what we're going to have going on out there in the very near future with traffic, our crosswalk, our intersection, our speed limits. And if we're going to add more people to that area, and it's almost becoming full, I believe our subdivision is full except for 1 or 2 lots. And for the safety of those folks at this new project and the safety of us all out there right now, I would hope and pray that the Planning Commission, the planners that bring this before the Planning Commission, and our city council will do everything in their power. Right now, the city has told me that they do not have any power to help us with speed limits out there. And with this large new project out there, I'm hoping the city will take a more positive view for all of us in the safety. We really don't want somebody to get killed out there before we do something with that intersection. So please keep that in mind, planners, Planning Commission, and City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Johnson. I live almost directly behind where the proposed site is. My question, and I know you can't answer questions, but something to propose or to ask at some point. I'm an educator. I've worked with many students with autism myself, and I know there's a broad spectrum of people you will serve. My concern is, what is your safety plan for people with autism who may not stay on site, and what is the plan for that safety for them? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? So we do have the, yep, come on, we do have the developer up here. If Bruce wants to come up and if he can answer any questions that people may have or concerns. Pardon me? Oh, it'd be Danielson Developing.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Danielson. I am the founder of Red's Place, and respect everybody's comments, and hopefully I can address most of them, all in a favorable manner. I'll try to remember them in order, but starting with the gentleman with concern about the residents themselves. What this is for, what we designed it for, is for autistic adults. For any of you guys who've been out to a restaurant or wherever, you'll maybe see a 60 or 70 or 80-year-old couple with their 40 or 50-year-old child who cannot live on their own. That's what Red's Place is designed for, to finally give those families some peace of mind with where their children will go when the families pass. They're all, the majority of the residents will be high-functioning autistic adults, but not driving, no children. It's strictly for older residents who have nowhere else to go. And there's just never been anybody to address this need at this level. So you won't have to worry about crime or any rowdy parties or anything like that. It won't be happening. It'll be very quiet. And the road will not be attached. It's only, we have to put an emergency exit in case the main entrance is blocked so the fire trucks can get in. So we've been very cognizant, trying to be very good neighbors with everybody. As far as Dick's comments on traffic, our folks don't drive, okay? So there's not going to be a traffic issue. There will be some employees coming, but not a lot on a daily basis. Everything's entering on and off of Highway 29, which is a state highway, and we had to meet, we've spent 1.5 years working with the DOT to make sure it's safe and done correctly. So we've addressed that also.
in regards to the plans for the kids or the residents. Um, Again, our building was designed by an architect out of Milwaukee who has an autistic son. They're very well, they live it every day of what is required. So there are multiple safety features and contingency plans to make sure the residents are safe. We're taking a huge responsibility providing, we're basically telling the parents, we got this from now on. You don't ever have to worry again. We're going to take care of this. We are not allowed to make a mistake. We have to be delivering at 110% because we're guaranteeing these families, their children are going to be safe. And in many cases, some cases, now with the new design, and the reason for the new design, we were ready to break ground in May for 54 units. The federal government passed legislation called the Settlers Act on May 9th, which classified a building such as ours, where we were trying to do something really cool for autistic adults, as being discriminatory and non-inclusive. And they stopped, as of July 10th, operations like this. The residents would not qualify for the state funding that they need to pay the rent. So we had to redesign the whole program and come up with a solution that worked. And what we came up with is if their parents were to live with them, luckily, being old is not discriminatory. So we could have families, not just the children move in, but in many cases, and I'm sure you know some of these cases where the family's been raising the child for 40, 50 years, they're not ready to quite part ways. We can have the parents in the residence move in, give additional care to the parents and the care needed for the residents. The law made it more complicated, but we really feel it's created a much better situation, which will allow families to stay together if they choose. And that's the reason for the 12 two-bedroom units, is why we had to add that. As far as the view and everything, for the one gentleman, keep in mind, this site sits very high. We're going to excavate down about 12 feet. So there's going to be the natural wall there in that back corner. And then will it be landscaping around the perimeter, again, to make sure it's a good neighbor and it's not causing anybody's view, any issues with anybody's view. As far as property values, I mean, this is no different than having Comforts of Home right next door. And I've seen the prices those homes have been selling for lately. They haven't affected anybody's property value in a negative way whatsoever. So we've been working on this for 2.5 years to address first what we needed to address for the residents, and then to make sure we're being very good neighbors. Okay, I do this for a living down in Florida. I'm a real estate developer in Florida. I don't clean floors anymore, Dick. So, but this is our charity we've set up just to help people who need a break and who just haven't had one. This is strictly a nonprofit deal. We're not making a penny. We're doing it as a promise to a friend, just to help some people that need a break. That's about it.
Yep. Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. We're going up to the Planning Commission, and if there's any questions or comments from the Planning Commission? Yep.
Are there going to be balconies on the units? Okay, so there's not going to be like people on balconies overlooking those properties next to them. Okay.
Anybody else have anything? Yep.
We have to, city code that we have. World-class project, and it's
Yeah, I'll stop it after this. Okay, we're done with public comments. We're back up here in the planning commission. If you guys want to talk afterwards, that's fine.
And point of order, Mr. Mayor, that this is, we're looking at this issue and it would go to council and the public would be able to speak again on it at that level, correct?
Not for the special, we're past the special
Special
use
use.
permit stays here.
Okay,
This is just us.
this is just us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I stand corrected.
Harley, could you bring up the site plan again? And is there a way to show kind of where it sits on the property itself? Is there, I mean, I know we don't have that picture in the agenda, but is that, can you kind of point to it like,
Yep, absolutely.
thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Commission, graphically here, we see a 20-foot setback shown, which is kind of the minimum rear yard here. Graphically, this right here is a pathway that wraps around the building, looks to be probably 4 to 5 feet wide, and then you have a bit of a buffer in the building. Guesstimate would be something like 25 to 27 feet. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but that would, in that ballpark.
And then the road is on the north side.
Correct.
Even farther, yeah.
Yep, there'd be an access road here, and then Larson Park over this way.
Okay.
Thanks.
Correct, that's what I was saying, is behind that, there's more, so 25 to 27 is the guess. That's showing 20.
Okay.
Thanks, Harley.
Anybody have any other questions for Harley? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I will move that we approve the special use permit for supportive housing facility, Brett's Place on Highway 29.
Second?
Okay, we got a first and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Again, we're close the planning commission, open up a public hearing on special use permit for home occupation at 1149 County Road M. This will be for the Kleist property. And does anybody have any? Oh, go ahead, Harley. Sorry, yes. Harley is going to give us another presentation here.
Sorry, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, good evening again. The next item before you tonight is 5-star restroom rentals, a request for special use permit approval for a home occupation. Prior to getting into the details of the SUP request, a quick refresher on the urban reserve area since the subject site is within the URA. A cooperative boundary agreement was entered between the City of River Falls and the Kinnickinnick Township.
Oh,
For the feedback, absolutely. Yep. Is that a little bit better? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so prior to getting into the, I'll continue where I stopped. So a cooperative boundary agreement was entered between the City of River Falls and the Kinnickinnick Township in 2019. This agreement relinquished much of the city's ETZ and ETSA area, but created a new boundary known as the Urban Reserve Area. The URA is within the township, but all land use is administered by the city and is intended to preserve land for future city growth in that direction. The subject site is located just east of town in the Kinnickinnick Township within the River Falls Urban Reserve Area at 1149 County Road M on the south side of County Road M. The 13.5 acre parcel is zoned A, agriculture, which allows for both single-family residential and a number of agricultural-related commercial uses by right. There are also a small number of uses which are permitted under a SUP, one of which is a home occupation, thus necessitating this request. Code defines a home occupation as an occupation or business activity that results in any commercial activity or enterprise for financial gain, benefit, advantage, livelihood, product, or service that is conducted for gainful employment in a dwelling unit by a person residing in that dwelling unit. A home occupation is incidental to the residential use of the dwelling unit. Typically, a home occupation permit such as this is permitted administratively without the need for a public hearing, as long as the noticing and review process, which code outlines, is followed. The exception to this is within the residential suburban and agricultural zoning districts. When reviewing a home occupation, there are broadly two major questions that must be answered before a determination can be made. Firstly, if the use is in character with such uses as entertained by code, and secondly, if the operations of the home occupation conform to the prescriptive standards of code. The home occupation ordinance provides a list of types of uses that are considerable under code. Such uses as catering businesses, accountants, barbers, and attorneys are listed, among many others. It is notable that a use need not be an exact match to a use on the list to be considerable, as long as it is within the general character of the listed uses and can demonstrate compliance with the home occupation standards. The ordinance outlines a number of standards that must be met in order to issue a home occupation permit. The ordinance requires that the occupation be conducted entirely within the subject property, within indoors, that the operations, that only one employee outside of the family will regularly be on site, prohibits any offensive externalities, including noise, vibration, smell, and more, as well as stating that the use shall not be a safety hazard. Further, the ordinance limits operational hours between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., limits occupational-related activities to 25% of floor area, prohibits any outdoor storage or the construction of any structure or edifice in connection with such business, and finally limits signage to a single unlit sign. A home occupation meeting the character of use and the listed criteria may be approved. The home occupation requested before the Commission tonight is a portable restroom facility rental business, which primarily serves events and construction sites. The operations on site would be limited to the storage, maintenance, and detailing of restroom facilities and equipment. Staff finds this use analogous to that of a catering business in that equipment is often either rented out or used at a customer's site and then brought back to clean and store in the occupation site. Though there may be initial consternation over the particular good or service, it is notable that from a zoning perspective, staff's recommendation is predicated upon being widget blind, only considering use typology factors and potential impacts, as well as mitigatory measures against such impacts. To reiterate, all pumping and disposal of waste material is done entirely off-site at a DNR-approved facility. The storage and servicing of the facilities is to take place in the existing shed on site, with a small administrative office in the principal dwelling unit. Every facet of the proposed operations are heavily regulated by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and licensure must be held by the operator in order to conduct the business. The DNR primarily regulates any potential environmental or safety issues with the operations of the business. As will be expanded on further in a moment, staff has recommended a condition whereby the operator of the business must provide staff with a current licensure by the DNR for the business and provide us with any renewed licensure within 30 days of renewal. Such licensure must be kept in good standing. Staff finds the operations consistent with the aforementioned standards, being entirely indoors, fundamentally of a use that is consistent with the character of uses contemplated by code, regulated tightly by the DNR, and limited in its on-site activities. Staff is recommending 5 conditions of approval, which reinforce the home occupation standards and provide clear operational expectations. The first stipulation reinforces that all home occupation activities must take place indoors. This includes any storage, servicing, or cleaning of facilities. Stipulation 2, which limits the floor area of the shed to 25%, which comes out to 2,800 square feet to be in line with the home occupation ordinance. Stipulation 3 prohibits any offensive externalities, including sound and smell. Stipulation 4 limits hours of operation. And finally, Stipulation 5, as touched on previously, requires continued licensure by the DNR and a copy of such standing licensure to be provided to the city. Both the conditions of approval within the resolution and the code language which regulates home occupation uses and the special use permit would be fully applied should this request be approved, and code outlines a process by which violations are to be handled. Upon receipt of a complaint, or if staff should notice a potential violation, staff must investigate and make a finding of fact and reply in writing which is kept on file by the city. Should a violation be present, corrective action under the power of the home occupation ordinance may be taken up to and including revocation of the permit. If any complainant is aggrieved by staff decision, there is also an appeal process to the City Council. In addition to the home occupation standards, River Falls Municipal Code requires that the Plan Commission evaluate a special use permit application based on the criteria on screen. Staff have examined each of the following conditions and found there to be no concern. Staff analysis of the specific conditions can be found within the meeting packet. Therefore, finding consistency with the home occupation standards, the special use permit criteria, and the comprehensive plan conformance, staff recommends Commission approve the resolution for the SUP for the home occupation with the recommended conditions. With that, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I turn it back to you.
Thanks, Harvey. Okay, so comments from the public. Anybody want to say anything? Come on up. Or again, if you could sign in, that'd be great.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Maxwell. I live probably less than a mile from the Kleist property. I oppose the special use permit and request that the Planning Commission deny the application because the recommendation for approval is based on an inadequate analysis. The analysis not only fails to address key elements of the home occupations ordinance, but also reaches faulty conclusions when analyzing whether the purpose and intent of the ordinances are met and when determining that the recommended special condition uses are sufficient. One of the elements of the home occupations ordinance stipulates that no more than one person other than family members can be engaged in the occupation. Mr. Kleist in his application indicates that the company owns 4 pickup trucks, at least 3 of which are used on a daily basis. This indicates that at least 3 people must work for the business, but the analysis is silent as to the number of employees and whether the employees are all occupants of the home. Another element of the ordinance is that the business is prohibited from creating offensive noise and odors and from creating a risk to the health, safety, or property of neighbors. Portable toilets use a number of chemicals, dyes, fragrances, surfactants, biocides that are toxic when undiluted. And while waste disposal will occur off-site, Mr. Kleist has indicated that he intends to use his property for business storage, yet the analysis never mentions whether chemicals involved in the business will be stored on premises. Nor does the analysis even mention that the applicant's building is adjacent to a wetland that drains into the Kinnickinnic River, as indicated on the map provided with the analysis. Neighboring well owners and any community member who uses the Kinney have no idea what the health or safety impacts may be because the analysis is silent on the issue.
15 seconds.
My statement is a bit longer, so I'm going to ask another neighbor to finish the statement.
Good evening. My name is Ian Lowenstein. I also live in the area as the previous speaker. While ignoring key elements of the home occupation ordinance, the analysis also uses faulty logic. The examples for acceptable home occupations found in the ordinance fall into 3 categories: creative arts, personal services requiring face-to-face interactions with clients, and professional services such as office support and intellectual work product. None of the examples are remotely similar to this truck hauling business. The analysis really strains credulity by comparing the business to a catering business. No home occupation catering business involves deliveries on this scale. I'm not aware of any catering business that needs to clean chemicals and human waste from their equipment. The ordinance simply does not envision this type of industrial use as a home occupation. The analysis also states that the square footage restriction of 2,800 feet is sufficient for compliance. Mr. Kleist's application states that the business owns 4 pickups, a luxury restroom trailer, equipment, and nearly 400 restroom units. It is physically impossible to place that amount of equipment into 2,800 square feet. Given that he built a 11,200 square foot building to house his business, it is highly likely that he knows that his equipment will not fit in 2,800 square feet. Yet the analysis is silent as to what storage alternatives he has identified to comply with the condition. We are simply to take on faith that behind closed doors, the other 8,400 square feet in the building will remain unused for the business. In conclusion, this request does not meet the purpose and intent of the home occupations ordinance, and the special use should be denied. At the very least, conditions should be added, no chemicals will be stored on the property, and Mr. Kleist should be required to identify the storage locations for the equipment that will not fit into the allowed 2,800 square feet. Also, by colloquially referring to 11,200 square foot building as a shed, the analysis downplays the scale of this business. As drafted, the resolution wouldn't prohibit exponential growth in number of trucks coming and going from the property. Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Brad Gilbertson. I reside at 1143 County Road M. As you've seen in the photograph there, my house is right along the property line there. I guess I've got a big concern about the contaminants in the air, the airborne particulates, because I am only about 40 yards away from that building. I've been in touch with the USA.gov. I've been in touch with the EPA, and they even have some concerns with living that close to that type of business. So I'm worried about my health and my family's health. I looked through a lot of emails, and I don't see where anybody came through and hired a chemical engineer to figure out if those airborne particulates would be cause for alarm. So I'm saying that it is cause for alarm because I'm that close to the subject property. So therefore, I'm saying that this just has to be denied. Another thing is when Mr. Kleist says that, or I'm not saying Mr. Kleist says this, but no exterior evidence of a home occupation shall be permitted to exist on the lot in question. He'll be in and out of there every day with his trucks going in and out. That will be evidence of his business. It's not like a dental office, a lawyer's office, where people will come and go and there won't be any evidence of that business. Where porta potty business, you'll see trucks coming and going. It'll bring down the property value of our property and other properties in the area. Yeah, it shall not create a risk to health, which I just stated that with the particular matter.
15 seconds.
The safety or the property, which will create, I spoke with a number of realtors, and my property value will go down. And that only benefits one person here. It doesn't benefit the community, all the adjoining landowners, or.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm.
Can you come up and sign?
The old man. No, get from Greg's time.
Thanks.
Okay. Some of the businesses that are allowed to operate in this urban reserve area is the office or studio of an accountant, architect, artist, attorney, engineer, interior designer, landscape photographer, dentist, physician. According to the rules in a home occupation permit, a porta potty business is so far away from what is allowed. Dental office, people go in, come out, people don't mind living around a dental office. Who's going to want to build when we do develop? The urban reserve area was created to keep businesses like this out of that area and to save it for future development, for housing development. And there's not a developer who's going to want to sell my lots in the back to who's going to want to build next to it. Like I said, the home occupation shall be conducted entirely within the principal building And like somebody, well, I can't say it because you don't want people to repeat it. But anyway, like I say, people will see these trucks. We will see it. We'll be out on our back deck and we'll see these trucks going in and out every day, which is totally against a home occupation, what it's all about. So that's why I asked for this to be denied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? My name's Elizabeth Kleist. I'm kind of newly graduated of the class of 2021 in River Falls. I'm very lucky to be a resident here. I am also Justin Kleist's eldest daughter and his only employee driving one of the trucks currently. You will see me come out at work at 6 a.m., leave, and come back once at the end of the day and finish my work. I am very fortunate to see my dad grow a business, but we would like to keep it within our realms of capability. We are not planning on growing anymore. I think it's a big deal for the newer generation. Obviously, you can see some newer faces here. And after coming to these meetings, I would like to further come because I didn't really know that this was an option for younger people to come as well. So that was pretty cool. I'm also 5 months pregnant currently, so you could think that my concerns of safety too. Am getting into my master operator's license as well, and I've been to many seminars and trainings where we have discussed the further chemicals and other things. We currently do not dump any waste or anything related necessarily to waste on our property where we rent from currently from Daryl Septic, and he lives on his own property where he runs their business as well. So that's just something to keep in consideration. I am the only one currently doing on schedule routes, so you'll basically just see me leave and come back. My father does more of the pickup and deliveries, and those will be transferred right into our property shed as well. That is just to keep in mind. That's my only comment.
Thanks.
Hi, my name's Tom Schreiber. I live at 75 Emerson Valley Drive, which is just to the north and very slightly to the east of the proposed business. My concern here in my statement is I do not believe that this should pass, basically on safety issues. By doing a rough count in my head, I came up with 26 homes that are to the west, east, and north of the proposed structure, which is already there, ready to go. My concern is the chemical particulates that can transfer via the air and what can also go into the ground. We all live in the country. We all have wells. Our well water is very precious to us, as is the air we breathe. And I do not believe that this business, this home occupation business, interesting way to put it, is compatible with human habitation. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
My name's Craig Greenwood. I live at 61 Liberty Road. I want to say thank you all for allowing me to speak. Well, the first point I'd like to make is when I saw the building being put up, I was scratching my head and I thought, well, what's Mr. Gilbertson got going on? Because
this building was right next to his house. So how would anybody in this room like a porta potty cleaning business about 40 yards from your bedroom window? That is not good. So I will tell you that we're all new to being part of River Falls. When I built 25 years ago, the Kinnickinnick Township made sure where I built my home, where I put my septic, where I put my well, and where our neighbors built. If my neighbor was going to build a shed, it had to be, in respect for everybody, it had to be far enough back so it wasn't not just disrespectful, it wasn't blocking an easement or anything like that. Now, what I would say is that there's a reason, there's a new house being built by the Kleist family. There's a reason that their house is probably 350 feet away from their building, and I wonder what that is. So, again, I'm not in favor of this. I've got well water, but I'm in more against disrespect, and it's not against the law to be a bad neighbor, but it certainly is not good. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Mr. Kleist, you want to come up and talk?
My name's Justin Kleist. I currently reside at 1332 Sycamore Street in town, River Falls, Wisconsin. First and foremost, I'd like to say I've lived in this town since 2001. I've been a part of this community. I've been in Lisa Moody's house. I've been in Dick Reinhardt's house. I worked for River Falls Heating for 18 years. And I was dedicated to this town, and I am still dedicated to this town. One of the first things I did after acquiring 5-star restroom rentals in 2019 was buy a banner at the First National Bank Stadium. I was small town proud, and I still am. I like to support the boosters. I like to support athletics, the university. I give back on most things that I do with my business. So to say I'm not neighborly is kind of hurtful because I've known Brad Gilbertson for 20 years, and I tried talking to him on multiple occasions when he had issues with things to try to straighten these things out. One of them was people were pulling into his driveway from my construction project. I knew nothing of it. He was going to Kinnickinnick Township meetings complaining about this. He came downtown here, River Falls, complaining about it. As soon as I caught wind, I got a 4x8 sheet of plywood. I put my fire number on there, and I got it at the end of my driveway to try to mitigate the issue. You know, he wants to talk about unneighborly. People want to say that I'm not unneighborly. On my street, in my neighborhood, which is the College View edition, I think you could go up and down my street and there isn't one single neighbor I haven't done something for. And I think that's just the way life should be. First and foremost, just to address a couple of things I heard, we only operate 2 trucks. One is my daily driver, the other 2 are pump trucks. One is a service route truck and one is a pickup and delivery truck. So we do not have 4 trucks. We only have 1 employee, and that is my daughter. All the chemicals I use are regulated by the Department of Natural Resources. The blue chemical, the fragrance, the stuff that goes in the tank is all regulated. There are some states that allow formaldehyde and other hazardous products to be put into their blue. Wisconsin is not one of them. Our washdowns, our cleaners, I keep MSDS sheets on every single chemical that is on my truck in my shop at any time, and anybody can have a copy of that book anytime they'd like. All the water, so all of our toilets, when they come back to the shop, have already been pumped with the tanks rinsed. At the end of our day, the trucks go to the wastewater treatment plant and get emptied, and they come back to the shop empty. There's no waste in the tank. There's no waste in the tank of the toilets. They're cleaned and rinsed. At the shop, we do have to wash the toilets, a little extra cleaning. That is done in the wash bay. The wash bay drains go to a holding tank, and that holding tank gets pumped and hauled to a wastewater treatment facility. At no point is there contamination that goes into a well. I have a well on my property. I have a pond on my property. I have wetlands on my property. Before I started any construction, I went straight to St. Croix County and I asked them, where are the wetlands? What are my guidelines? What is safe? How do I keep my pond safe? How do I keep the groundwater safe? I'm a deer hunter. I'm an outdoorsman. I love nature. I'm not here to ruin it. Now, the unfortunate thing is I do work in an industry that a lot of people find unsightly. I think if anybody here attended Bacon Bash this weekend and went and used one of my restrooms that was there, they would find that my restrooms are kept neat, clean, as every other part of my operation is. So
He can explain why he's got his business, and he's answering some of your questions, so he's got more than 2 minutes.
You know, a big reason, if you look at my business and people say it shouldn't be in areas like this, but if I understand that, Mayor, you can't address this because these other businesses are not within your jurisdiction. But if you look at Johnson Sanitation in Ellsworth, he's located in the country on a parcel just like this. If you look at Ron's, he's just out on 770th in River Falls Township in an area just like this. If you look at Marco in Warren Township in an area just like this, there's Apostle and Toombs, Barnes. There's many, all these small family porta potty businesses, and most of them are geared around farmland because most porta potty businesses also own a septic business. And when you own a septic business, you can land apply that septage. I do not hold a grade L license. I hold a grade M. L would be for if I land applied. Portable toilet waste is a little different than septage because septage is broke down. It's 80% effluents, 10% sludge, and 10% crust. Portable toilet waste is raw sewage. It has to be handled as such. It can't be land applied, and the DNR, that's why the DNR regulates my business so much. I have to maintain 6 compliance credits and 18 continuing ed credits every 3 years. I have to renew my license every 3 years. And in actuality, to do portable toilets, I have to be a master operator in the world of septage. I don't have just a porta potty license. It's not a separate thing. In the state of Wisconsin, they only have one group, and that group is master operator in the world of septage. I'm licensed to pump septics. I don't pump septics. All we do is portable toilets. To address the 2,800 square foot question, how am I going to fit 400 toilets in a 2,800 square feet? Right now I have 50. All summer I've had 50 toilets on hand. Barely enough to cover my events that I do on the weekends. In the winter, we do slow down. Construction slows down. We do get up to about 100, 130 of those back at the shop, which if you do the math, my building has 18-foot sidewalls. There'll be a shelf in there. They'll be stacked 2 high, plenty of room for 2 trucks, and 120 to even 150 portable toilets. A lot of my toilets will sit on sites like the YMCA camp in Hudson. I have 30 toilets there that never leave. They never come back to my shop. They sit out there all the time. A lot of golf courses and a lot of other areas where, you know, I never, if I have 400 toilets at my shop, no one's going to have to worry anymore because I'm out of business. So I don't know how else to put it. It's unfortunate. A for sale sign went up at the end of the driveway. I called the number, I bought the lot, and these are my intentions. My intentions weren't to screw over Brad or any other neighbor up and down the area. And I would still do anything for Brad if I ever saw he needed a hand, because that's just the kind of guy I am.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and reopen up the planning commission hearing. Huh? Oh, come on up. Sorry, I thought everybody was done. Come on up.
Gonna hear the developer. Good evening. My name is Greg Erickson. I am a downstreamer. I live in Clifton Township, and I own 4 properties in the city of River Falls. So I consider my standing is okay to speak tonight. I don't think that I've never met Mr. Kleist before, but it was good to hear his presentation. I don't see this as a personal attack on him. And I really haven't gotten that from anybody that I've spoken with that as we've been talking about this issue. But like I said in my letter to the editor a couple months ago, this is a good use in a bad location. And all of the examples that Justin just gave about how the other family-owned porta potty businesses are just like this, located in places just like this. That is not true. This is the only one that is in an urban reserve. And the philosophy of implementing the urban reserve had there was a reason for that. And it does not include this type of a use. It does have exceptions, and certain allowed permitted uses that are specified, but this is a bad exception to allow. I believe that there's financing underlying this development. It's far down the road. I mean, it's advanced. The business is ready to open in there right now. And I was in-house counsel for Erickson's. I've been in River Falls since our Erickson supermarket was built in the early 1960s. And as an owner of Erickson's, I was involved in a lot of financing packages for our supermarkets. And we had conditions that we had to meet. I think the 2-minute rule is really appalling for an issue of this gravity. Thank you. And so
when you can wait till he's done, but come on up and sign then when.
So I don't understand how the bank gave money to loan on this project and that the development and construction went forward without having the permit in hand. When we built the downtown shopping center, we didn't break ground on that until we had all of our permits in hand. Now, this is a turnkey deal. It's ready to start operating right now. If it's not already kind of operating, I don't know. I understand from Brad that there's activity going, porta potties coming and going there right now. So, I mean, is it happening? I think, then, I guess to kind of, my last thing is that I've always been a conservationist. I was one of the founders of the Kinnickinnick River Land Trust. And so as a downstreamer, I don't just make that statement lightly. I'm really concerned about what this river means for this community. And this is just a good use in a bad location. And it's against the spirit of the urban reserve. And it's against the spirit of the Kinnickinnick River Land Trust. So I'm not speaking on their behalf. They would have a representative here if they wanted to, but I think you should consider the river and consider the spirit of the urban reserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have to re-sign?
No, as long as you already signed.
I'll put 2 there, but.
There you go. Thanks.
I just have one other thing, because of what happened out by me at South Point. Our annexation at the south end of River Falls is almost, and I think you planning people would agree with me, it's almost dead in the water that nothing will ever be expanded south of Double F. And that's where I live in South Point. The only thing I'd like to add to this, because many, many wonderful things were covered. I've been a small businessman myself all my life. My heart goes out to the family business. I think also that type of business would be more appropriate in an industrial park. And the only thing I worry about is I do believe you planning people would be the only one that knows about it, or the planning commission. But if you do have plans 5-10 years down the road for annexation, this is going to be one of those situations where we're putting something that could affect that expansion, because we've got a water tower out there. We built a pumping station out there when I was on the utility commission. So I think there's more things planned out there. Thank you very much for listening. And again, I wish the family that wants this business, I wish them all the luck in the world.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Sure. As long as it's something new, you can come on up again. If it's the same stuff again, we're just kind of wasting everybody's time. Well, no, but if it's the same, if we were just repeating the same things again.
Now, when I went back and I asked for all of Emily Shively's emails, I had to sign some paperwork to get her emails. It seemed as though she was favoring and did make a statement that if this went through and passed at the planning committee, that city council would not hear this. It's a done deal. I don't think that's right, because, I mean, like I say, it just, she made statements with a smiley face behind her email, like, hey, we can get this done if we can get it done here with a smiley face. Dan, you've probably seen that. Maybe it was intended for you at your email.
It's on every email she sends.
Okay, no, I didn't know that. That's the only one I seen. But the only thing I can say, and I don't have much more to say, is I just got, the EPA is involved. So, I mean, if you, maybe Emily can shed some light on if she's got a chemical engineer that's said that this won't possess a health problem for my family and me. A lot of people, EPA and other, and USA.gov do think there's a problem. Could be. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, anybody else have anything?
I just want to point out that Mr. Kleist did not address where the chemicals are going to be stored for his business. And despite his comments, his application says that he has 4 pickup trucks and 400 restroom units. And so we have to believe that that is the equipment that will need to be stored in 2,800 feet. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in filling out my memorandum, I put 4 pickup trucks. One is my white F-250, which is a daily driver. It's also my personal pickup. I have an F-550 cabin chassis that I'm going to build out and replace my current truck that I'm operating with. And then we have our other 550 route truck. I have another F600 coming this month, and our 550 that we have currently will be being sold. Huh?
Is that 5 then?
No, we'll have a pickup and delivery truck, a route truck, and my personal pickup. But right now,
Is in your business name or is it in your?
it's in my business name,
Okay, then add that.
but it parks in my garage at home.
That's okay. I'm not gonna get into arguing back and forth, okay?
Okay.
Everybody's had their chance to everybody's had their chance to comment. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Kleist?
Fine.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
If you guys want to go back and forth outside, that's fine. Okay, is there anybody else have anything like to say? Okay, I'll close the public. Special use permit. This would be a special use permit, yep. Yep. Okay, so I'll close the public hearing and reopen up the planning commission hearing, and I'll take a motion on this first.
I'll make the motion to approve the special use permit for home occupation at 1149 County Highway M.
Okay,
I will second it.
got a first and a second. Okay, questions, comments? We can ask, we got our planners, we got Mr. Kleist, whatever, whoever.
I would just like to make a few comments.
Yes.
I have heard you all. One of the things that that I try to do when I'm on a board and deciding things is is to withhold value judgments, to look dispassionately at business plans and what's looking approval without giving some value as to whether I think that's a good business or a worthwhile business or not. So I'm also in the past have been a runner and have appreciated porta potties across the upper Midwest. It's a business. It's a business that contributes to public health, frankly. You want porta potties at a place like Bacon Bash or at the YMCA park, or when you're doing a run or any public event, a concert, you want porta potties there. I am heartened that everything chemical is regulated by the DNR. They're not easy to get along with. They've got a lot of regulations, and frankly, we as the city or as the planning commission don't have the authority to regulate those chemicals. That rests with the state, it rests with the DNR. Anyway, so those are some of my thoughts. This is from what I understand from the setup of this business, there's nothing that is going to leak or be discharged out of this building. So, and I'm also heartened by the idea that if there is any violation, if there's any complaint, it must be investigated. If there's any violation, we can pull this special use permit.
Anybody else? Yep.
So the building is 11,000 square feet, the whole structure. What's the rest of the building going to be used for? And then question for Harley, the 25% of the dwelling unit or accessory structure, is that 25% total? So like 25% in the house, 25% in the structure, or 25% of the total area? Does that make sense?
The way that the ordinance reads, if my recollection is correct, is that it's 25% of the subject structure. So we wouldn't aggregate both for the purpose of the total. It would be in each respective structure, 25% of the floor area.
Gotcha. Thanks. And where are the chemicals going to be stored? I assume in the building as part of the, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm trying to get this to fit with some of the analogous uses, catering business and so forth, and I'm really struggling with that. And as the folks have come forward, I believe, I'm leaning towards that idea that this is really not in the spirit of what the special use is for, considering the other uses when speaking about having an attorney's office or a dental business or something to that nature. I can't get this to fit. I want the business owner to succeed. I want them to be able to have their business, but I just don't feel that it fits with the special use.
Yeah, Harley, if you want.
Harley, I've got a couple questions for you that pertain to that. Could you get, I suppose I can ask you from there. The permitted uses that are listed in the zoning code, those are I guess I'm trying to figure out if it's the general standard that is what we should. Is that the key as to whether or not it fits in the home occupation? Is those standards that you put, that you listed, involve the sale of goods or services in connection with the home, conducted entirely within the principal business, within the...
Thank you, commissioners. That's a very good question, and honestly, that was a large part of our analysis as we went through. Just giving a little bit of background, it did take us a long time analyzing this to really contemplate the code, and if it does fit. It wasn't an immediate yes or no. It was really a lot of time taking an analysis. Regarding what in particular our recommendation is predicated upon, it's two things. One, we have the use in and of itself. Is it of a use typology, ignoring the widget that is being sold or serviced? Is it of a use typology that is consistent with the home occupation uses? Then secondarily, if it passes that test, does it meet the standards of the home occupation ordinance, which is that list that you enumerated? I understand that it might seem initially kind of like a stretch. However, when thinking of another analogous use, and the reason why catering was used is because it's directly listed. However, notably, we often have cottage kitchens, and that's not a listed use within the ordinance directly, but certainly it's something that would fit the character of the uses on that list. Another analogous use would be something like an ATM business. So you figure it's something that you put out, or even let's say a vending machine business. You put these things out and you take them in. When we're ignoring the fact that these are portable restroom facilities, it's simply something is being stored, something is being serviced. The other externalities in staff's recommendation are being handled by the Department of Natural Resources. There are further regulations in place by our ordinance that prohibit externalities, and if externalities are found and substantiated by evidence, we can revoke this permit or take corrective action. And so treating this use in and of itself as a fundamental use typology rather than a particular widget is best zoning practice, and that is how we arrived at our recommendation.
Okay, thank you. So in other words, the list of permitted uses that would be compliant with those or not is not an exhaustive list. It's the important thing is whether or not it fits within these standards.
Correct. Yeah, it says examples which meet the intent. So it's not an exhaustive list. It's not, limited to.
Okay, thank you.
Related to that and trying to set aside and be neutral on the widget. I feel like there's been testimony to this that reveals that, it requires more than one person to implement the widget based on what the folks have been saying with regard to the equipment that they have and the staff that they have and who's going to be driving vehicles and so forth. And that's part of where I'm coming from is this the right widget if that's what's required? And I think the ordinance says it's one person doing the business. But I feel that there's been some testimony here tonight that reveals that maybe that isn't the case because it requires more effort to keep the business going because of the trucks and the personnel within the family. So that's part of that.
May I address that, Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's another good question. The ordinance language is a little bit tricky. The way it reads, it says that home occupation shall be conducted by a person residing on the premises in which the home occupation is conducted. Not more than one person other than the members of the family residing on the premises in which the home occupation is conducted shall be regularly engaged in such occupation. And so that ordinance language insinuates that it's acceptable to have an additional employee in excess of the entire family potentially working on this business as long as they reside within the dwelling. And if, unless I'm mistaken, Mr. Kleist, both in his narrative and his testimony tonight, has stated that his only employee is his daughter.
Okay.
So I can kind of compare that to my business. There's me, my wife, she runs it. We have one employee who is my daughter, and we have 4 vehicles. Same scenario. Just because we have 4 vehicles, they're not all used at the same time. It's just, it works along the same line, so.
I stand corrected again.
No, it just kind of, when Harley explained it to me, it kind of said, wait a minute, that's my business, it's my wife's business.
I do see that now.
Yeah.
However, I still feel that it is, based on some things that people have stated, for me, it's that it's just not the right place for this particular business under the special use permit.
And I assume delivery, like a driver driving on, unloading things would count as an on-site employee, even if they're only there for 20 minutes to unload the truck or whatever and drive away. Does that count as an on-site employee?
That's a good question. For a use like this, it would, because it really the use is the storage and staging and delivery of these things. If, say, you had a commercial kitchen and you had, a delivery man taking you ingredients from a company, at that point, I don't know that we would consider that to be an employee. But for the purpose of this business, yes, anybody driving one of their company vehicles that is insured through their company that is dropping off these porta potties would be considered to be an employee.
And so, do you live on site? Like, are you going to live in the house with your folks, or do you live elsewhere? Okay.
I would just like to add, there is staff, I think, works very hard to find a positive outcome for a business owner to grow their business and have success. And so I think, there's due diligence in that. At the same time, they're looking at the protecting the community as well. And I think that's what I've heard and seen staff do in this process. But however, I won't be in favor of this. However, I do appreciate staff's effort in what they're doing. And I think there's honest due diligence in it. So.
Sorry, one more question. What's the future land use plan for this area? I mean, do we know from the comp plan process what this was identified as?
I believe it's kind of one blanket future urban growth area through the comp plan, Emily, unless I'm mistaken. I believe this is identified within the URA as basically future growth, which addressing the comp plan really the core of the comp plan analysis for this is not necessarily one purely of land use, because we are not changing the zoning of this parcel. This is already a conditionally permitted use through Wisconsin state law, as long as the particular criteria within the SUP can be met. If this were something like subdividing the property and zoning it to something like a B3 commercial designation, that would certainly be a different equation. But the intent of the land use is to preserve large tracts of land for future subdivisions, residential growth, and potential commercial growth in the future.
So the ag zoning has absolutely no bearing on any part of all of this.
Commissioner, it does insofar as the ag zoning in and of itself lists a home occupation as a permitted use. So that's how we are able to process this.
The occupation doesn't have to be ag related?
It does not, no ma'am. As it states that it is as defined within the zoning code, which is the definition that was read earlier tonight.
Am I thinking ETZ, that it had to be ag related? Okay, I guess.
I think so, and that's what's kind of throwing me off tonight.
All right, thank you.
The old days.
I just have one question. This holding tank for the cleaning, how often will that be emptied? And who empties it?
When you apply. For other people, so Darrell Septic and Johnson Sanitation. Not be pumping it myself, just so there's 100 in everything that's done.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, so we have a first and a second on special use permit for home occupation on 1149 County Highway M. Questions, comments are done. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next move on to planning update with Emily.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing. So next month for the November Plan Commission, the first Tuesday of November is November 5th, which also happens to be Election Day. So we need to set a different day for Plan Commission in November because we are anticipating at least one, if not two, applications for review. So November 6th would be a Wednesday, and that would be our alternative date. That works for everyone.
Does the 6th work for everybody?
It does.
Sure.
To be just that Wednesday after.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that's all.
Okay, that's it? Okay. Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Okay.
Question.
I gotta get to
So-
our